Hi, listeners. Before we begin, we'd like to remind you that the opinions expressed by our guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Center for Education Abroad or the University of Rochester. Our podcast aims to foster dialogue, critical thinking, and exploration of various topics related to education abroad. We encourage listeners to consider multiple viewpoints, engage in respectful discourse, and form their own opinions. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our community.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to a new episode. Today we have Bethany Beru with us, who had her fall 2023 semester abroad in Barcelona, Spain on IES's Liberal Arts and Business program. Bethany is going to discuss how it is to travel as a minority student abroad, so keep on listening. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So we have Bethany with us here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Bethany Beru. I am a current senior at the University of Rochester. I'm majoring in business finance, minoring in legal studies and American Sign Language.
And you went only for a semester, right?
I did.
Okay. How would you say your experience, specifically with IES, how was it in terms of expectations versus reality? What were you expecting when going into this? You know, what were a couple moments where you were like, that is not what I expected to happen?
When I was thinking about studying abroad, I expected to have a similar program to what my best friend had, which was in Madrid. She had her own room, she had her own bathroom. There was more of like a dining hall experience. She had made friends in her program and outside of her program, and she wasn't really close with the people in her classes, but she saw them in passing. So I kind of expected that. But when I had the housing experience, unfortunately, because of deadlines, I was busy. I had missed the deadline for that sort of housing. And I tried my best with IES Barcelona to figure out like alternative housing, but I ended up being placed in a homestay. So that was something different from my expectations. So I lived with an abuela, a grandma that was there, and I had to share a room, which was also something that I didn't have to do since freshman year.
Wow.
So I shared a room. I was nervous about that, and I expected it to be like an experience that like we only see each other in passing, we're only seeing each other in the room. But I ended up becoming like bestest friends with her, and she was also East African, so it was easy for us to bond over certain things, and we ended up going to our weekend trips together a lot too, so I think that worked out. And then the food was something that was outside of my expectations. Her cooking wasn't bad, but it's just not what I was used to. You know, the food was different. The meals were much more simpler, much more cleaner. And then in terms of programming, I thought that there would be a lot more opportunities for us to go on weekend trips with Barcelona, but a lot of those weekend trips were expensive. And I realized very quickly that it would just be much more cost efficient if I planned them out myself. So expectations, most of them weren't what ended up being reality, but it also ended up working out too. So everything worked out, but I think that there were a lot of expectations that I had going in that I had to adjust to afterwards very quickly too. So it
Definitely.
was fun. Yeah.
How was your homestay program? Was it like only a grandmother who lived like alone?
Yes. So
Wow.
She was a grandmother. She had lived in that apartment. When I thought homestay also, I expected like an actual home. But Barcelona's a huge city, very similar to New York City, for example. It's uncommon to have houses in the city.
Definitely.
So it was an apartment. She lived on like the 3rd, 4th floor, and the kitchen was open to us. We weren't allowed to use the stove, but we did have access to the microwave, and we had a mini fridge for ourselves, which I think most students that also had homestay, in my program specifically, could share that same experience with. She didn't speak any English. That was also another thing. I had no background in Spanish, so it was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of struggling in the beginning, but very quickly I was able to communicate with her what was happening. In the beginning was a little bit overbearing sometimes in terms of she wanted to make sure we were safe. She wanted to make sure that since we were her responsibility, we weren't missing or anything. So she would constantly tell us if we're not going to be home that night, let her know. If plans are changing, let her know. Within our first day there, she brought out a piece of paper and wrote down our entire class schedule, which me and my roommate thought was very interesting because we weren't used to our parents even asking that.
Yeah.
And we were used to being independent. She was also a senior, so we were both caught off guard. But we liked it, actually. It ended up working out for us. She did our laundry every Tuesday. You know, she cooked for us dinner at 9 p.m. sharp every day. So some of the things that were reminded, like we were told that we're going to be included in our homestay. That was true. And we were told that if we were doing a homestay, laundry is expected once a week and somebody will clean your rooms once a week too. So honestly, it felt new having somebody else take on the responsibilities that I personally would take on.
Yeah.
It was cool. I think the only difference was not being able to communicate as easily. So it actually taught me a lot of Spanish though. So I loved it. It was an experience that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I just lived by myself in a single room.
Yeah. I was going to say you probably picked it up really fast if that was your situation.
Yeah, the language wasn't even the worst part for me. I think the food was entirely different. I was used to eating in mass quantities. I was used to choosing what food
Portions
I want.
are totally different.
Yeah, I was used to having food that was seasoned or cooked a certain way. It was different because it was much cleaner, and
especially I feel like Spanish food, very simple.
Yes, it was very simple, and I think that some of the foods that are also very cultural and traditional, I didn't enjoy very much. I wasn't very fascinated by it. So I ended up finding a couple places that I liked. There were kebab stops that I liked, and that ended up being my spot. So other than that, I think it was fine.
Shifting gears a little bit, as a woman of color who studied abroad, how do you think your experience may have differed from someone who was was white and went to Europe?
I think some of the culture shocks that I experienced were things that my white peers would have never seen or thought about. For example, we went to the airport, me and my roommate, and TSA pre-checks as normal, of course, but they would constantly pat down my roommate's hijab and ask her about it. And I think that that's not something that I would have ever expected here in the US. And she was also caught off guard, but by the end of our program, it would be something that we laughed about, oh, they're gonna check you again,
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that my white peers weren't used to. I think that a lot of the things that I found not very noticeable here was very noticeable there. Some of my professors would be very shocked by how often I would change my hair or how different or how many shapes it could take on. I think on the bus, there were people that would stare, maybe not for any malice sort of way, but just more curiosity or, this is a black person here on the bus in this area, maybe. Yeah. And similar to any big city, there's different areas that are known for having more minorities or are known for having more white people. So I think that as time continued in Barcelona, I was familiar with those areas and I found comfort in certain spaces more than others. So I think adjusting to my area and my environment was very quickly something that I learned I had to realize. But I think it felt very different because on the weekends I would go to a different country with a different culture, with a different type of people and mentality.
Constantly changing.
Exactly. So it was interesting. I visited Stockholm, for example, where my friend was, and that was completely different. There were no black people, but there were also a lot of Ethiopians, which I'm Ethiopian, and I was surprised to see that. But I could only really see that if I went to certain spaces. I had to force myself to.
You have to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that studying abroad taught me as a black woman too, you have to find those spaces and you kind of have to go out of your way to find them. It's not easy, they don't come to you, but you have to learn to try. I think within the first couple of weeks I found my African community in Barcelona, and going out with them was easy. Finding restaurants was easy because I learned where to do that, and I learned who to hit up and what Instagram to follow and stuff like that. So I think that if I didn't force myself to do that, my experience would have been completely different.
So when you talk about finding your community, especially in Barcelona, is that within your program, or what areas were you more comfortable going to?
Okay, so my program was very white, but after discussing this coming back with a lot of my other study abroad friends, I realized that I was actually very lucky because at least there were a couple people that were also minorities and experiencing some of the same feelings that I had. Yeah. So we kind of made a friend group, but then I also had another friend group which looked completely different than that, and it was just people that I did different activities with. So I found my niches in different spaces, and that was all within the Barcelona program. So a lot of the spaces that I found comfort in were the people that I hanged out outside of classes. There was a time that we went out and I met an Ethiopian person, and he was we're having a picnic this weekend if you want to come. It's this Ethiopian community, follow this Instagram socials, and I got to know them and I got to know people. So I think that finding my community was only accessible if I really put myself out there, So I feel some other people that might not agree with my sentiment on Barcelona as as the different groups that exist there maybe didn't try or go out of their way, because it does exist. It's hard, but it does exist. And it was difficult in the beginning, but maybe like a month in, I found that. And I think my program also tried their best to recognize some of that. They talked about like different resource groups. So the IES program said that there was going to be a group for like Black people, a group for LGBTQ plus community, and we never heard about that once during the program. We never saw that. It was more activities, and that was different, because it's like, if you don't get your friend to come to the activity with you, then you're just going to be alone.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't work for somebody else, then that's cool too. It's as long as they find their community. That's what makes the experience enjoyable.
Can you tell of a specific moment, perhaps, that you found someone within this community? It could be like from the program, not from the program, and you did something together, you went to the beach, you got food, something. Perhaps you were realizing, like, yeah, this person is part of my community. Like, are there any moments that you had with any people?
Yeah. There was this girl that was Kenyan that went to the same high school prep program that a couple of my friends did here. So she ended up knowing a couple of my friends. So we ended up automatically clicking.
Okay.
And then there was this other girl that was closer to her named Nyla. Basically, they invited me to hang out with them over the weekend and kind of get together, grab a few drinks. We hung out, immediately clicked. All three of our dynamics was perfect. We bounced jokes off of each other quickly, and it very quickly, we could tell that like the program isn't made for people that look like us, so it's up to us to go out of our way and make ourselves feel comfortable and seen and like enjoying the experience that we paid for and we wanted to have. So we maximized every weekend that we had with each other. We used to go out together and just have an incredible time. And to this day, I have a group chat with them, and they just send videos all the time of memories. And we had a shared album where we would just like go out one night and then just drop everything in there the next day and be like, oh, I remember when this happened. This was so funny. So I feel like them, for example, if I didn't have the ability to meet both of them, I think that some of my experience wouldn't be what it is. Even my idea of what the city is because of them. And I think that also I did a good job exposing them to different parts of Barcelona and showing them that there's like more to it than just the pretty architecture and the Gaudi and what you see about on Instagram. You know, there's a community outside of the community that's just locals. I think that there is a sense of people that flock to Barcelona because it's a big city and because it's such a touristy city. There's also people that are there for the weekend and then you'll never see them again. Yeah. And so I think with us being there and kind of feeling like, oh, like we're living here, it was interesting to see people come and go, but us stay. And so we kind of had like a pride in the fact that, oh, we went there and we did this. And if somebody comes and visits, we can tell them, hey, do this instead. Exactly. So I think that bouncing ideas off of each other and like meeting that type of a group was so beneficial to my experience that I can't unsee it. Like if I didn't have that, I can't imagine what it would be like. Yeah. But I miss them very much, and that just goes to say that if once you meet those people, just to keep them close.
Are there any, I don't know if you can remember them, but are there any recommendations you have for anyone who's East African who's traveling to Barcelona or anywhere else in Europe that you can remember, any places to go in the city?
Yeah. See, I would say the restaurants. Like there's a couple restaurants, but I'm not going to lie, I don't enjoy it as much as the restaurants here. And I'm also born and raised in Rochester.
So you know.
Yeah, so I know the restaurants here. I would say I think there's an Ethiopian Instagram account. They do hangouts. There's also Neo Party, like Neoparty. I think they have like nights specifically, and sometimes they have DJs that are Ethiopian that are really cool. And there's also this Instagram account called Voodoo, Voodoo, and they host events too. It's honestly just like spaces for like Black people and Africans to feel comfortable and listen to music that they enjoy. Yeah. And a lot of Barcelona and Europe in general is like EDM and like house party music or like Spanish music in Barcelona specifically. But Afrobeats and Amapiano is on the rise in Europe. Like they're recognizing that it's fun, you know? Yeah. So I think that there are a lot of places that do exist where you can find nights that are enjoyable that, like, you know, will offer the type of music that caters to you. It's just a matter of finding that. I was lucky enough I mean, I'm also a very outgoing person, so if I see you and I recognize that you're one of my people, I will walk up to you and say, how are you doing? So a lot of the time it's like people that I met like that, and then they tell me about things, and then I meet them and we share mutuals and stuff like that. So
it takes time.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes time, and sometimes it's just a matter of also asking. Like, sometimes it's nerve-wracking, but you can ask. And that's what I did when I went to Stockholm, actually, because I had a great weekend in Stockholm, even though my initial expectation was it's very white. The entire country is just going to be white people. Mm-hmm. I had have some random person that I met on Instagram, and it was like a DJ, and I had seen that she was having an R&B night, like a karaoke night. So I was like, oh, can I come? And do you have any recommendations for Stockholm in general for somebody like me? I'm interested in this, this, and this. She sent me an entire paragraph, restaurants to try, places to go to, where to eat dinner at, and we did it, and we had a great time. So I feel like a lot of the times it's like asking the people that have been there before you, and also trying something new and going out of your comfort zone, because you've already taken the first step of going to an entirely different
You're already
country.
there.
Yeah, that was my perspective, and I think that that's what made my experience enjoyable too.
Stockholm, because I would not expect that at all from Stockholm.
Exactly. I was so surprised. And even I surprised my friend that was studying abroad there for months. I surprised her.
You do your research well.
Exactly. Yeah. She was like, I can't believe this is Stockholm. I didn't know that. And I was like, yeah, like, it's fun. It exists.
Or have there been any places in Barcelona or in Europe in general that you didn't have the best experience, probably because you know, you're a woman of color or something very specific? Because I know when I talk to a lot of minorities who go abroad, they say sometimes when things specifically happen to them, they just go in like a 1 week rut. It like really affects them. Did you experience anything like that? And if so, how'd you kind of handle the aftermath of that situation?
So there was, in the beginning, there was a required field trip that we had to go to with Barcelona, the IES program.
Okay.
And everybody went. The entire program went. And we went out one night, and I think basically a couple of my friends were denied entry because they were dressed very masculine-like, and they are women, but they were dressed in baggy clothes, and they're not welcome in the place that we were supposed to go to, because that's not what they're supposed to dress like. That's not what they're supposed to look like. So he
specifically told them that was the reason.
Yes. And I was already in the venue at that point, and I was texting them, asking them, like, this didn't specifically happen to me, but they were also people of color. It's also very interesting that happened, because Barcelona is a very, like, open, they're very liberal, they're very open, like, the LGBTQ plus community is very strong there.
It's pretty innovative, too. Exactly. I feel like gender fluidity in Barcelona is, like, a thing that people talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very open. And so we were all surprised. That was an interesting experience, and I think that threw them off, and I can understand why. And I think that it was more just like, okay, this is something that can happen to people that look like us. They bounced back very quickly. Like, they were just like, okay, where are we going instead?
Next place, yeah.
Because that made me upset, but I can't stay down because we're here, you know? And then for me specifically, I think, so when we went to Morocco, when we went to Marrakesh.
Oh, you went to Marrakesh. That's awesome.
For a weekend, yes. But also, like, I don't know. There was somebody else there in the Barcelona program that was nervous about why I was going to Morocco, that was fearful of, like, oh, you'll get kidnapped. But it wasn't that. It was a beautiful experience. Morocco,
especially Marrakesh, is a pretty, like, touristy city.
It's a busy city. Like, Ronaldo has a home in Marrakesh. Like, it's fine. I was gonna be okay. I just had to be safe. So I think that like, some of people's initial, I hate to say it, but it's like stereotypes that they have of a certain region or country can discourage them from going there and trying something new. So I'm hesitant to share any negative perspective or experiences that I have regarding a country, because everyone's experiences is different. It's difficult for me to say, like, this country is racist or this country is this, because everyone is different and their experiences are varied.
You're interacting with individuals within a country.
Exactly. And so my mindset is, I'm in this space and I can take up the space because I will be here. And if somebody's upset with that, then that's okay. Let them be upset, be my guest, but that has nothing to do with me. Yeah. So it's very difficult for me to answer that question, only because I'm not somebody that's thinking about, like, I'm carrying myself safely regardless of where I go, and I'm having a good time regardless of where I go, because I want to. I'm very hesitant to discourage mindsets of not experiencing something solely on the basis of what if, or I've heard. If we were going to experience life that way, then most people wouldn't be doing anything new. Most people would be staying in their comfort zone. So I say go wherever you want to go. Do whatever you want to do. If you're interested in the woods, if you want to go to Ireland, go to Ireland. If you want to see the city and you want to try something bustling, go to London. You know, there's a range of types of cities. It's just properly doing your research. And I'm not going to lie, TikTok helped me a lot.
Yes.
I was so surprised.
And I don't know why I thought TikTok would, like, lie to me about everything. But some of the stuff is actually...
Some of the stuff was like, I want to go there because I've seen on Google that it makes sense. And then you do your research on TikTok and it's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just saved me $60. So my answer to that question is do your research, stay safe, enjoy yourself, but don't be hesitant of going somewhere on the basis of somebody else's opinion or experiences, because you have your own experiences, you are your own being. It's interesting. Like, I have nothing else to add except the fact that I don't want to say any terrible experience about what I've had or what I didn't have, because you could have something completely different. The only rut that I experienced, or like low, was the fact that I wasn't home. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling FOMO for a lot of things that were happening on campus, a lot of social events and political events that were happening on campus that I felt like I would be a part of if I was home, but I'm not. So I did my best to feel like I was part of the Rochester community by taking part in the activism that was occurring near me, which was in Barcelona.
For
They
what?
will organize Palestine and Israel, the current genocide that's happening. I did a lot in Barcelona. They showed up stronger than I ever imagined. I was so surprised. I'm not expecting to be disappointed, but I was kind of expecting for like them not to care, but they cared. I was beyond surprised because I've never seen people of that amount before, especially because I'm from here.
Yeah.
And like Rochesterians are very, very open, and they will protest too. This is an activist city. That's an actual urban city. So seeing that many people, there would be times where I'd like just sit there and I'd be like, wow, this is happening and I'm here right now, you know? I enjoyed it, and there was some times that I'd be proud that I was like a part of it. Being abroad while UofR was transitioning into that state was, I think, something that I didn't expect to feel like FOMO for. It was weird. Like, I don't know why I'm like not, you know, like I felt like, oh, I'm having fun and enjoying myself here.
And my community's going through something.
My community's like struggling here, and I can see my peers and my friends and the people that I love, the people that I don't even know, you know, standing up, and I want to be a part of that, but I'm physically here. So it was interesting.
That's amazing that you got to experience such a vast array of emotions. Like, even when you were just talking, you were talking about such different things, and you really got your foot in the water. Students of color and a lot of minorities, whether in like the LGBTQ plus community, you know, certain religious groups, tend to sometimes not go abroad, and even statistically, they go abroad a little less. Why do you think it's important for students of color to go abroad, or any minority, really?
I think it's important for them to realize that they can do something. I think it's difficult because it feels like it's something that's impossible, and then when you find out like steps and you have proper support and guidance, it feels reasonable. But even the idea of it feeling reasonable is a far reach for students of color because of, I think, a lot of the pressure that comes with succeeding, even in a state here like this, or in a school like this. We're trying to go above and beyond our peers, our white peers, and so now you're asking me to go to a city that I'm not familiar with, a language that I don't know, if it's a language, if you're in a city that you don't know, a culture that I don't know, and do that times 100, and also enjoy myself. That's a lot. That's a lot. And take on the burdens that comes with culture shocks, or people not understanding your culture, or you learning something completely new. So I think that already we're not used to being uncomfortable at UofR because the academic rigor is high. We're competing with our peers and also competing with other students in different schools. So now the idea of doing that in a country that is not home is hard. It's scary. I think even if you're not a person of color, it's scary. So I think it's fear, and it's the lack of awareness and support that makes it difficult for students to fathom the idea of leaving what's comfortable and safe. And even some influences from parents, I think, makes it difficult. When I mentioned the idea of studying abroad to my dad, he was like, why do you want to leave? Like, you have school, you have a life, you know? You're comfortable here. You're about to graduate. Just finish your school and go and just be done.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, it was like, you guys had the opportunity as a first-generation immigrant or as a first-generation student. They had the opportunity to come to America for the sake of us, for the sake of a better life.
It wasn't majorly even about them.
Exactly. It wasn't like they were itching to leave home for the sake of, like, I need to experience something different from home. It was because it was no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I have a choice now where I can do that because I want to, and it is different from home. I think that that's something that is new and foreign to them.
Yeah.
So trying to explain that to our parents can be difficult sometimes. Mm-hmm. And also seeking support in terms of things like financial aid or things like navigating where I'm going to live and what food I'm going to eat, even down to, like, how do I dress going abroad.
Definitely.
All things that a lot of people don't have simple conversations about. And I think that I realized that when I came back, because there would be a lot of questions that I would ask my upperclassmen friends,
mm-hmm.
and they'd answer. They'd give me all the time in the world. But a lot of people don't go out of their comfort zone to even ask that first question.
Yeah.
So I think it's comfortability. I think it's fear. I think it's a mix of social pressures. And then also, like, family expectations. All of that combined, and now you're still somebody that doesn't look like most people in the city that you're visiting. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the first step of going out of your way to ask those questions is what's necessary.
Thank you so much, Bethany. Is there any last words you want to say? Anything that we didn't really get to touch on that you would like to add?
I think this is a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
I love talking to you.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. I think if anything, any people that are interested in studying abroad, mm-hmm. make that first meeting, go through the website, ask the right questions, and ask the people that you see are having fun and enjoying themselves on their Instagram stories, so don't be scared, reach out. If anybody ever has any questions, feel free to contact me. My name is Bethany. I'm sure that there will be some sort of contact information.
In the description below, we'll have her full name and everything.
Okay, yeah, cool. But thank you for having me.
Thank
I really
you for
appreciated
coming.
this. Yeah.
Thank you so much.